Hello, good evening, and a warm welcome to you. Welcome back to World Online Racing. You've just tuned into PC tier number 3. We have arrived at round number 8. My name is Frostbreath, or Rob, whichever you prefer, and once again, alongside me is the epic man named Epic. How are you tonight?
It's going pretty well. I'm feeling good. Of course, it's Canada this week, which is it's a track that I've always enjoyed driving on, but never hugely loved it though.
Well, I mean, we are in tier 3, and, they always bring something special to the track. And there's only 3 rounds remaining, and that brings us to an interesting thing in the standings. Because, as you can see right here, Leroy Brown's got a 55-point gap to Conrad Boehm, who missed last week's race, as he's still a reserve driver. Which is a little surprising, but we'll get back to that later. 55 points at the moment. His last result was a DNF in Hungary, missed in China, and that means he will have to outscore Leroy Brown by 3 points or more to stay in the championship fight. Because after tonight, his gap needs to be at most 52 points to still have a little chance at that championship. It's not likely, but it's still possible, and I think he'll be clinging onto every little bit of hope that he can tonight, don't you think?
Yeah, very much. And just from his form this season, he's only been off the podium once in 7 races, which I think is the highest we've ever had for a driver across the season. No driver has actually completed the season with above, I think, 70% podiums in tier 3. So it's an interesting one, isn't it, to see that he's so far out of the 70% completed of the season, he's been on the podium for 60% of the total season. But yeah, Leroy Brown, I feel like the ball is in his court here, and I think he's gonna perform well. He's had a decent record at this track. I think he's shown that pretty much at almost every single track. He's had a good record at just pretty much every single one. But he does have a good record at this track, and so I think that could play into his hands tonight. But Conrad Boehm is back after missing a race and DNFing in Hungary. So it might be an interesting one to see from him. But realistically, in my opinion, I'd say that I'd say the championship is almost wrapped up.
Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, Canada, Austria, and Brazil still coming up, of course. The last 2 tracks, plenty of overtaking opportunities, as is Canada. For that matter. But still, this is Leroy Brown's championship to lose. And looking at his previous results, it's not likely that he's going to lose it anymore. We're about to get onto the grid. A little heads up about Lighty's result. He came in home in 2nd last week in China, but Xfox had a post-race penalty of 3 seconds for overtaking while ghosting, which caused an unfair advantage. So he's been demoted down to P4, and that allowed Lighty to actually come out as the race winner. And that moved him up all the way to 3rd in the championship, just 1 point ahead of Exafox. But now it is onwards to the game, to the tier 3 grid right here. Canada, looks like it's quite sunny out there. Let me actually bring up the fancy telemetry, and it's going to stay dry all throughout qualifying. Of course, the race will get back to that later, as that is still not set in stone, as we'll be restarting the lobby as per usual. Many familiar names, as always. We can see, for example, Thomas Lemon, and this time driving for Kick Sauber. We see some other reserve drivers, for example, Damien Carril in the McLaren alongside Louis Welch, who's back in business after a week hiatus, just like Conrad has. And Conrad himself is actually driving in, let me see if I can find him, the RB car next to Lucas Beisner.
We've got some interesting drivers returning tonight. One of those drivers returning tonight is actually Alexei Kavira. It's been a while since we've seen him, of course. It was back in Hungary, so it feels like a very long time ago, almost a month ago it was.
Yeah.
Not the best of performances.
Last year.
At that point. Yeah, so it's been a lot longer. Sorry, it's been Great Britain.
Oh, that's quite a long time ago, yeah.
My graph sadly scrolled very slightly, yeah. So it's been a very long time. Of course, he did win round 3 of the season, but hasn't done anything else. Only raced 3 times. But as I said, that Bogdan Moldovan is starting a lap.
As usual, isn't he? He's always first to go and first to come round, whether he invalidates or not. Of course, Canada is notorious for track limits and track penalties. We'll see a lot of them, I'm afraid, in the race and potentially here in qualifying as well. It's also extremely busy on track. Everybody's come out. Tim Tornimo's gone back in, though. He wants to avoid all the chaos, I'd say, or maybe he's made a little mistake on his outlap. But Bogdan Moldovan still through sector 2, number 2 right here, through turns 6 and 7, onto the back straight. DRS wide open right there. It's going to be a banker lap only, so of course you would prefer to avoid any shenanigans. Lighty, though, has crashed out. I'm going to try and quickly find whether I can see something about what happened to him. There he is in the wall for a second. We were following Louis Welch for a moment. Unfortunately, the race winner of last week is already out of qualifying as he crashed just before turn number 6. An unusual place to crash, by the way, but we'll come back to that as soon as Bogdan has finished his lap. He's on the last straight before the start-finish straight right there as he comes up to the very infamous chicane and, of course, the famous Wall of Champions. No invalidation for him, though. He's going to put up a nice lap time right there, and 1 minute 8.2, followed by Thomas Laminen, who goes faster straight away, as does Lucas Beisner. A quick qualifier as we are used to from him in Tier 3. There's 1 minute 7.9, Ivan Santamaria an 8.3, and Boba an 8.2.
What's interesting to see, we'll have to see some more drivers cross the line. But what is quite interesting to see is how there are quite a few drivers struggling to get in laps, like Louis Welch just invalidated his lap, by the way, on the final chicane, so he hasn't had a good run. But the man who we said about, who was incredibly good in qualifying last season, Ivan Santamaria, 8th, now 9th, dropping down the order. 3rd slowest so far, 4/10 away from the fastest time. It's painful to watch every week, isn't it? And it just makes you wonder, where did all of his pace go? Of course, we do know that there was a handling update. There's been, what, 2 now on this year's game?
Yeah.
So the handling has changed quite a lot. It's quite dramatic changes as well every time that the handling does see a change. And just watching Ivan Santamaria, it just feels like I don't think his actual skill has gone down. I think that would be a massive insult to say whether his skill has gone down. But I think it's more, I'd say to some degree, it is more the handling that's hurting him.
Yeah, you see that often, don't you? When a game massively switches handling, some drivers come out on top and some just fall away completely. And I'm afraid Ivan, for now at least, falls into the second category. Although last week had a bit of a revival temporarily in qualifying pace, but then in the race everything just went down horribly for him. His teammate Mark Schluter as well just had front wing damage when trying to get into the pit lane, had to retire. I mean, Ferrari in general this season has been quite shocking. And that's a shame, as Lighty in the chat says, I definitely meant that. Crashing out, Lighty, last to first is definitely going to happen for you. In fact, it's going to be an interesting one to see from you as a last week's race winner after a post-race penalty for Exafox. But on track right now, Tim Tornimo, the only one out at the moment. He went in during the traffic chaos. He's now got the track all to himself, which I think is pretty smart. He therefore only has got the chicane to go. No distractions for him in that bright green kick Sauber through the chicane, past the Wall of Champions. You wouldn't want to go through it anyway. Up to goes into P6, 3 positions behind his teammate Thomas Laminen. So for now, Kick Sauber is looking quite strong. And also, Epic, I've just noticed that Wilson Hall is driving tonight for Aston Martin.
Yeah, he is. I noticed that as well. I think first time this season or second time? Let's double check actually. It is. I'm trying to find him. He's actually done it a few times. He's raced 3 times this season actually. So I don't know why I'm so surprised to see him. But yeah. One of the drivers I'm surprised by actually at the moment is a man that we didn't expect to see so high. It's Leroy Brown in qualifying. He's had a few races where he struggled on his first runs, hasn't he? Last race really proving that. He was 12th after the first runs, and he's sort of had that for the last couple of races. He's slowly been going down. Maybe he's found his qualifying form for, of course, the championship battle, sort of for a race to win his championship, you know, to claim it early. Maybe he's finding the pace, but should we figure that out on this lap that he's currently going on as he heads round? Sort of the leader of this group a little bit behind him. Into turn 1 he goes, through turn 2. Pretty nice from the Mercedes, not too bad, quite smooth, a little bit slow through turn 2 though. Now into the next 2 corners. Again, quite nice. He is nailing this first sector here. He's up by almost 1/10.5 already in the first sector, which, remember, isn't that long. It's quite a short first sector. Coming round towards under the bridge into the fast right-left. We've seen some drives in real life get a little bit too close for comfort. And now heading round towards the end of the middle sector, and he's up by 3.5 of a second. Leroy Brown, he could be going even faster now. Lucas Baszler does go fast as he goes to a 1 minute 7.8.
Conrad too, by the way.
Yeah, Conrad Bohm, P2. So Conrad Bohm really putting in that first run. Now into the final chicane goes Leroy Brown, throwing the car through all the way up to the wall there. And in and across the line he goes. It's up by 3.5. Just misses out on provisional pole by 25 thousandths of a second.
And he splits the RBs, as does Thomas Lang, who goes up all the way to P3. A very fast lap from him as well. Surprising to see him this high up there in Canada tonight. Daniel Gottschalk goes up to P5. Many drivers on their way, including Tom97, the other Mercedes, heading towards the line right now. He's going to improve to a 1 minute 8.0, which is about 2.5 tenths away from pole position. Only good enough, though, for P9, which is not going to bring him that much joy, I'm afraid. Damien Carril has put in his first attempt with an 8.4. Not at all probably what he wants to see behind his name, but it is what it is. Let's see anybody else on his way. Ivan Santamaria is actually heading back in. That's one of the Aston Martins then right behind him, who is about to cross the line. That is actually Wilson Hall as he goes on to the line and across it. That's going to be a 1 minute 8.4, only 16 fastest and splitting the McLarens. At the back of the field, Louis Welch is there too, and he's trying to fight for second in the championship after missing last week's race, but he's only 15th, so he's got a mighty job ahead of him. But he is, I believe, no longer on his way. No, he's going back in right now. I see both Williams' cars still going. Matex invalidated again, so that's not going all too well for him. And that means everybody's pretty much completed their second attempt already.
Yeah, very much. I will say, though, Louis Welch, he had a bit of a charge, but would you say, sort of, at one point, did you see him as a championship challenger, or was it a hope? Because
a good question.
I saw more of as more of a hope that he would challenge the championship than a sort of mathematically possible.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you on that one, but I can still see him fighting for positions below that, because he's definitely proven he's fast. It's just, I think he might have made a few mistakes here and there on this track. Of course, as I said, track limits are very hard to come by, or sorry, to get around, I should say, literally. You can also see Exafox, for example. We've had 2 attempts now from him, and he still hasn't set a lap time, and he was fighting for the win last week, as has he been at the front of the field for much of this season. So seeing him at the back together with Lighty is a bit of an interesting one, but let's see if he can do a proper hot lap. He's on his way at the moment to the finish line. He's about to cross the chicane. Better not invalidate that one right now, otherwise his next lap is going to be invalidated as well. But there he goes, throttle flat down and then across the line. The man who won the race last week but got a post-race penalty, finished in 4th by the end, is looking for some proper vengeance tonight in Canada as he goes through turn number 2, approaching turns 3 and 4. The first part of the track where you can already invalidate your lap, but it's looking quite stable so far. Then coming up turns number 6 and 7. This is where Lighty crossed out, therefore is allowing him to start on last place and do that big challenge that he's been eyeing in the chat right there, as his teammate Boba goes up to P9. That is Exafox's teammate. He's himself approaching the end of the second sector and then going to the hairpin of turn number 10. Let's see. What time has he found in Sector 2? Of course, it's an unknown because he hasn't set a proper lap time just yet, but I'm certain it's going to be somewhere in the top 10 at the very least. Then, One more big straight to go, and then it's all the way to the start-finish line with just a chicane in between that and a potentially good lap time. Coming up right there is the star chicane. Wall of Champions, nice and easy does it. Oh, very close and invalidates again. And in the chicane, where so many drivers have messed it up, it would have been a 1 minute 7.7. That would have been good enough for provisional pole, but then again, he got the chicane. But it still would have been very close to it indeed.
Yeah, very much. He definitely would have been inside the top 3. That was actually, I was just watching that lap throughout, and it was almost perfect.
Mark Schluter, by the way, on his way for provisional pole.
Pushing as well, up by 0.2 of a second.
Yeah.
Massive amount. It still won't be provision. It will just be provisional pole, but he has to nail this final chicane. We've seen a few drivers struggle on it. Let's see whether he can handle it. Into the chicane he goes. That is a perfect chicane we've just seen from him. Heading down and across the line. It is fast.
Wow.
1 minute 7.7. Just going slightly faster. Not a huge amount, but it's slightly faster he needed here tonight. Leroy Brown, by the way, coming up the line. Now, Leroy Brown goes fastest of all when he needs it. A 1 minute 7.716. Going another 23 thousandths faster than Mark Schluter.
Wow, Damien Carrillo just did a massive jump from 17th and last all the way up to a 1 minute 8. Exactly 5 milliseconds quicker than the man in second in the standings. Conrad Bohm has been pushed down to 7th right now. He is invalidated this attempt, unfortunately, so that means there's only one try remaining. Less than 5 minutes left on the clock, and that means the pressure is properly on for the only man, technically, who can really challenge Leroy Brown for the title for this 19th season here in WOR. Next across the line, again, Wilson Hall. Where is he going to go? He stays 16th fastest, does improve a little bit, goes for a 1 minute 8.3. But the gap between first and the last few cars is getting bigger and bigger. Red Bull car of Alexi Cavero, they are crossing the line. Unfortunately, he stays in P9 for the time being. Let's see somebody else on the way. Tom 97, I believe.
Well, he's just invalidated. Oh, no.
Oh, that's a shame. He needs it. He's back in the pit lane. Oh, Tom 97 invalidates too. He's only 11th fastest. He was on his way for not much of an improvement yet. He was a 10th up, though, in the middle sector.
Which would have sent him to P6, by the way.
Exactly.
Which is massive to gain 5 places for just a 10th of time. But I will say, this is the one difference we're seeing. Drivers like Leroy Brown, Mark Schluter, Lucas Bezner, who have shown throughout the season they are stronger in qualifying. You know, they do have the strength in qualifying. Are proving here that, you know, and also have been incredibly good with track limits. They're proving here that this is their strength, and this is why potentially we could be seeing quite a one-sided race from more of the experienced drivers on the grid.
Yeah, a bit of a dark horse, by the way, in the top 5, I think, is Jensen Rosen. Because here he is in his Aston Martin, happily sitting in 4th, about a 10th, just under a 10th from provisional pole. Sorry, just over a 10th, I should say, from provisional pole. So that's quite impressive overall. And for the last attempt, once again out first is Bogdan Moldovan, sitting in only P15. He's going to have to find a lot of time to get all the way up there. In fact, 3 or 4 tenths would make it happen already, which sounds like a tiny bit, but here in Canada, that's quite a lot. So let's see, as everybody is coming out for their last attempt, what can they do? Who's going to claim pole position? I'd say everybody in the top 6 or maybe even top 7 or 8 does have a shot at it.
I'd say probably the top 5.
Okay.
Because there's 2 tenths split in the top 5 at the moment, so you need quite a big improvement. And especially on a track like this that is, like we've seen, literally a 1 minute 7 point, you know, like a 1 minute 7 track, 1 minute 8 track. It's very short, and so finding that time is quite difficult. But we watched this man on the first run. We're going to be watching him once again on his final run. It's Bogdan Moldovan.
Yeah, let's see what he can do. Still a lot of traffic slowly dribbling out of the pit lane right there, but it looks like it's not going to hamper him too much. There's a Williams just ahead of him, but he's got an Alpine behind. That will not bother him whatsoever. The end of the first sector coming up quite soon already. It's about 20 second-ish long. There he comes. It's an 18.8, half a tenth quicker at the moment. That will not bring him much apart from 1 position up in the standings right now. But then there's of course still 1.5 sectors to go. almost everybody is ready to start their hot laps too, but Bogdan Moldovan will be the first to finish it off the lot. Let's see where he can bring his Haas. Can he get it anywhere close to Thomas Lang? The other Haas sitting in P5 at the moment. Looks like he's getting a bit more time in sector number 2, drifting through the hairpin right there. My goodness me, I'm not sure if that's going to gain him any time whatsoever, or maybe that might be the killing blow, so to say, for his final qualifying attempt, but he's still going to try his hardest. Through the chicane, of course, a lot of time can be lost or gained. Let's see what he can do then. Through the chicane he goes. No invalidation for Bogdan Moldovan, as he's going to cross the line right now. It's going to be a 1 minute 8.0, and there he goes, all the way up into P9. But that's the best he's gonna do, as everybody else is on an improvement as well. Matex just started his hot lap. Let's find somebody else who's driving fast right now.
I think it is Daniel Gottschalk who's on a lap. He's improving by just over 1/10 of a second in the middle sector. So he needs to find a little bit more time to pressure for provisional pole. But at the moment, he's on a good way to a top 3 at least at the moment. So let's see what Daniel Gottschalk can do into the final chicane. He has got 4 cars. It is Ferrari and McLaren, by the way, all in front of him. And now, through the final chicane he goes. Pretty solid through there. Very smooth from Daniel Gottschalk. And across the line he goes. It is going to be P5. But it isn't enough for him here today.
Thomas Laminen, P7, 1 minute 7.9. That's the best he's going to do for tonight. Then one of the RB cars, that is actually Konrad Bohm, goes up all the way to P6. Not good enough, I'm afraid to say. Then the Mercedes of Leroy Brown, is he going to sharpen his pole position? He isn't. He stays, though. Fastest of the lot. Then Thomas Lang. No, he's not next across the line. That's Bogdan Moldovan again. One of the other Williams cars. Then it is Matex as invalidated. He's not going to improve whatsoever. Then both Alpine cars of Boba and Exafox. Exafox goes into P4. Boba stays in 13th. Then Tom 97 to cross the line goes into P5. Brilliant qualifying there from him. Tim Turnimo then to cross the line. He's invalidated. What can Lucas Beisner do? Stays third fastest. All eyes then, I think, are going to have to go to Mark Schluter. Jensen Rosen stays in P6. Daniel Gottschalk already has done his qualifying, though. Mark Schluter then next across the line with one of the McLarens. That is Louis Welch, and he does do it! Mark Schluter! That might be the comeback of the season. He goes fastest overall. My goodness me, that is one humongous surprise. Thomas Lang has bailed out, and it looks like then Mark Schluter's actually claimed pole position. Did we see that one coming? I don't think so.
I definitely didn't. I thought Leroy Brown had it in the bag. He had 84 thousandths over the car behind him. But in the end, Mark Schluter found another 10th and a half in all of it. I don't know how he found another 10th and a half in all of it. Clearly showing some incredibly high amounts of pace round here. But what a lap for Mark Schluter. But you've got to give it to everybody else. They're all on absolutely amazing form today. All so incredibly close. I mean, 4/10 splitting first to, sort of 11th or 12th. That's massive.
It is indeed. And look at the gap. That's 0.137 seconds to Leroy Brown, the championship leader. Now, that is absolutely huge. Lucas Beisner has done a brilliant job as well in 3rd position. Exafox in 4th. Then Tom 97 in P5. His best result, I believe, in qualifying of all season. Jensen Rosen P6. Daniel Gottschalk in P7. Then Konrad Bohm only from P8. Louis Welch P9. Thomas Lang 10th. Then Laminen, Kirill Moldovan. Santa Maria only 14th. Cavero P15. Boba. Tim Turnimo. Wilson Hall. Matex and Lighty, of course, with his last to first challenge. But everybody within 1 second of the pole position time. But that is not surprising on a track like this.
No, not very much. But I just want to point out something. Exafox, on his last run, went P4, I believe.
Yes.
In one run.
Yes.
It was his best time, by the way, out of any of his laps.
I mean, he knows how to handle pressure then. That's quite impressive.
Yeah, I mean, that is a next level driving, isn't it? It's very much, leaving it to the last second, but clearly showing that pressure isn't getting to him, and he knows that he wants that second in the championship.
Mark Schluter is surprised by his pole position, by the way, in the Discord. He says he peaked in Sector 3 with a WTF behind that one, for the matter. So he's going to be very delighted with this pole position alone, and I'm just hoping for his sake that his race is going to be a good one too, because last week he qualified fast, somewhere P5 or P6, but the race just wasn't his... wasn't meant to be for him. So let's see if this is going to be the turnaround, even though it's a little late for the men in the Ferrari. Let's find out. We're going to restart the lobby right now. We'll soon be re-invited, or rejoin it, I should say. The grid will be set, and they'll be good to go for 35 laps of Canada.
I'm quite excited to see what we're going to see from Conrad Bohm now. Are we going to see a sort of survival drive from him? Is he going to be driving to survive and try to get lucky in the race, or is he going to go sort of very aggressive
I think he has to
chance it all?
I think he has to go aggressive and go for an all or nothing approach, because this is his last chance. If he doesn't outscore Leroy Brown now, who's starting on the front row, by the way, by more than 2 or 3 or more points, I should say, then it's over. So he's got to be aggressive, don't you think?
I think you got to take into account the championship battle for first, but then you got to think about Conrad's battle over second.
I'm not sure if he cares about second, to be fair.
Well, I mean, other drivers, I think drivers like Extra Fox would be arguing to that slightly.
Yeah, Extra Fox does care, but I'm not sure if Conrad does.
But still, I mean, maybe he should think about that second in the championship, at least getting second.
Probably wiser,
don't
yeah.
throw it all away because you can't win the championship. Now, don't get me wrong, I used to be one of those drivers. I'll be honest, I used to be one.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, it's not a smart thing to do. I really think Conrad Bohm should now... If I was being honest, I'd probably say he should focus on getting second in the championship and maybe focus on how he does in the race, not trying to beat Leroy Brown because of that championship gap. And, how much can he actually reel him in, in the space of sort of, 3 races? Quite unlikely he will be able to.
That's a fair point, yeah. And judging by his past performances, he is one of the drivers that tends to be a bit more patient. So he's probably going to try and take calculated risks, but not send it whenever he can, like, some other drivers would tend to do. So he's probably going to play the long game, and maybe you're right, he's going to try and care about second place, and anything above that is a welcome surprise. But with his nearest rival ahead of him, starting from the front row alongside Mark Schluter, it's going to be a tall order indeed. Everybody, by the way, now is slowly rejoining the refreshed lobby. That means, of course, as usual, a refreshed set of weather conditions too. The actual race was going to be rain by the end. Of course, Canada is quite prone for some rainy conditions in the game, so I wouldn't be surprised if that is going to happen again. It will be quite interesting, because we do know that several drivers absolutely shine when the rain comes down. So, yeah, let's see what the weather is going to do, and let's see if the drivers are going to be able to cope with it.
I think it will be interesting to see if it's wet, because I think that will very much change up the grid. But, of course, if it isn't and it is still dry, I still think we'll see a lot of changes, because we know some drivers are better at qualifying than the races. We've seen that quite a few times. And I think that's going to probably be the biggest difference. Is we've got a couple of different drivers as well this week. Wilson Hall returns. We also see Alexei Kavira return for the first time in 4 races now, 3 or 4 races. Jensen Rosen as well. We've got quite a few drivers returning after Christmas. So I think we are seeing a bit of a different grid compared to usual, because there's some drivers who were quick before who are missing this week, and there's some who, for instance, weren't here last week but here now this week, and of course are performing. So it's going to be an interesting one to see.
Can't help but notice, by the way, that Lucas Bice and his teammate Julian has been absent for quite a while now. Looking at the standings, he's missed now 3 races in a row. We have seen him the last time in the Netherlands, where he finished in P8. So yeah, Lucas is definitely missing his fellow teammate, because I believe they've been together for all seasons. They've been in the same tier. They have been teammates all throughout. So Lucas is definitely missing his second half within the team, which might not bode too well for him. Lucas Beisner, by the way, result-wise, well, he was Mr. Consistent last season. This season, though, is a bit more of a mixed bag, to be fair. 3 top 10 finishes, 2 DNFs, 2 finishes out of the points. But tonight, he's looking quite fast.
He's looking fast, but if you cast our minds back to Hungary, quite fast round there, didn't do so well in the race. And last
well, he was in the front,
China,
remember, for a long time, and then the final few laps happened after the safety car, and that's where all chaos unfolded.
And that's the thing, you know, it is very, you know, it's completely unpredictable.
Yeah.
But I think we also got to remember China as well last week. His pace was decent in qualifying. I think he qualified 8th or something around there. He was inside of the top 10, and then he finished 13th. So, you know, he's had it a few times where his qualifying pace has outshined his race pace, but we do know with Lucas Beisner, usually his race pace outshines his qualifying pace. So I think since, like we said before about the handling update, I think it has changed the way that a lot of people drive. Of course, you have to change the way you drive, but I think that means that we've seen a lot of drivers, for instance, their strengths have changed into weaknesses, and, you know, it's all swapped around. So, you know, we were saying Lucas Beisner is Mr. Consistent, but we're seeing this season, you know, the handling seems to be a bit more unpredictable for him, and he's struggling a bit more to be there.
Yeah, I think Mr. Consistent of this season is actually Leroy Brown. But I've also like to talk about Thomas Lang, by the way, because if we look in the standings, he's far, far away from everybody else. He's got no points finishes yet. He's done 4 races out of the past 7. 2 of them DNF, 2 of them out of the points. And right now he's qualified, or was it P5 or 6 or something? Either way, he's really high up there. So there's some good hopes, I think, for Thomas scoring some points tonight.
Very much. Finally, the points drought finally coming to an end. I think it will be an interesting thing to see, but I think one driver who really needs to get a decent race together is Louis Welch. His qualifying was abysmal until that final run where he got P9. So he really needs a turnaround in the race, and I hope to see it because he's put in some really good performance this season. Of course, he won back in Hungary, so hopefully we'll see that sort of performance again this time round.
Yep, he was the race winner there, and a very happy one at it. Also, let's see, I was just noticing another driver. Yeah, Jensen Rosen, also high up there, without any points yet. Of course, reserve driver, missed the last 3 races of Netherlands, Hungary, China. Finished out of the points in the first 4. So there's some hope for him as well. But Lighty, of course, the man currently 3rd in the standings and the nearest threat to Conrad Boehm, starting from last. So he's got a tall job ahead of him here in Canada to drive from last to wherever he can finish. And we know he's quick, but he needs to stay out of the incidents.
Yeah, I do agree with you there. One driver I want you to just to cast some view over to is Daniel Gottschalk.
Yeah, I mean, he's been on a bit of a rise.
Yeah, he's been driving well. Of course, his peak this season being Hungary, P2, 18 points. But out of the last 3 races, it's been very up and down.
Yeah.
I mean, he's gone 16th, then 2nd, then 7th. So the consistency may be missing slightly for him at the moment.
Yeah, but he does shine in the rain. So he's probably hoping there's going to be some rain in Canada today. Right now, it's looking quite sunny. Very little clouds in the sky at the moment, but that might change very quickly with this game. So we're going to have to wait and see what the actual telemetry is going to tell us for the rest of this race. It will only update once the race actually starts. So we're going to keep you updated on that matter as soon as we can, as the drivers are picking their car setups right now, selecting a appropriate strategy. Whether it's going to be the hards or the mediums, we're going to find out very soon indeed. And they'll be on our way for 35 epic laps around Canada, where Leroy Brown needs to make sure he keeps Conrad Bohm behind. And if he does get ahead of him, making sure that Conrad does not score more than 3 points on him to keep the championship fully in his hands and claim it tonight. But we're on our way right now. Mark Schluter from pole, Leroy Brown from second place, and we are on our way for round number 8 here in Canada. Mark Schluter gets off the line quite well, as does Leroy Brown. Who's going to lead into turn 1? It is going to be the Ferrari of Mark Schluter, as Lucas Beiser and Axel Fox behind them squabble it out for third position, and Axel Fox, for now at least, gets the edge right there, and he does get ahead for the time being. Lucas Beiser forced into 4th position. There is Jensen Rosen trying to get past there as well. Tom 97 and P6 are getting very close to the back of the Aston Martin. He's actually going to go for a move. Tom 97 for the Mercedes Constructors Championship. He needs to get past the Aston Martin to score more points for the team. But Jensen Rosen for now defends quite well. Old cars then gone safely through Sector 1 and potentially Sector number 2 as well. Brilliant job by every driver so far. That was Conrad Bohm going a bit too wide out of the corner. He's in trouble as he's been pushed down to 10th already, and another Sauber is about to get past around the outside in the hairpin. The man challenging Leroy Brown for the title in trouble, and there's one of the McLarens, Louis Welch, who's trying to fight for second place, all the way down now to 19th in the first incident of the race on lap 1 in the hairpin at the front of the field. In the meanwhile, Leroy Brown pretty much pushing the German Ferrari right there on the the last 2 main straight. And now they come out for lap number 2. Leroy Brown is putting on proper pressure to Mark Schluter, showing him that this is his race to win, his title to win, and he's gonna try and get past as soon as he can.
This is an important moment here, because we've seen Leroy Brown, even though he's piled on the pressure, he hasn't been able to make that move off of lap 1, and that could be an important thing, because Mark Schluter now controls the pace here. He's able to control the pace, and with how these corners are, it's going to allow him to maybe gain something. But Conrad Bohm having a bit of a battle with Boba. He's down to 14th. Conrad Bohm
16th.
Dropping through the order, down to 16th now. He's going to drop down again, I think. Dropping down another place. He drops down to 17th. Something has to be wrong.
Yeah, he's been dropping positions ever since the start of the race. Started in, was it 8th or 9th place? Now he's down in 17th. There comes one of the Williams cars. My goodness me. Matex drifting through the corners. Lighty in the meanwhile made up 2 positions since the race start. Not that much as I had expected to be. As Leroy Brown now properly takes the lead from Mark Schluter before the chicane even happens. Mark Schluter making no problem of it. I'll quickly show you the tires, by the way. Everybody is starting on the hards except for Boba, who's decided to go for the medium tires. And I'm looking at the weather graphic, and the last 2 icons on the telemetry say a thunderstorm is going to come up by the end of the race. So that's going to be fascinating. We'll know soon enough whether that's going to be by the end or maybe a little bit earlier than that, but I think every driver is anticipating the rain to fall before they have to come into box. There goes another fight there with Jensen Rosen and Lucas Beisner, by the way. Lucas Beisner for now then staying ahead of Jensen Rosen.
Mark Schluter just about keeping up, by the way, with Leroy Brown. He dropped at 4:10 in the first sector. He is struggling through the corners. I do notice that, so maybe there's a difference in setup between the two. Maybe Mark Schluter going for the straight line speed. You can even just see down this small straight here, he's keeping up and actually catching Leroy Brown even without DRS. So I think Mark Schluter might have the straight line speed advantage.
Yep, let's see if he got some more straight line speed then with the DRS. He is definitely gaining quite a bit, but it's not enough to get past before the chicane. Jensen Rosen though had a look, trying to get past Lucas Beisner again, but no chance there. Mark Schluter then with an opportunity perhaps into turn 1. No, not happening just yet. In fact, it's Jensen Rosen now trying to get past Lucas Beisner. Lucas is absolutely none of it. He's already damaged his front wing in the process. The left end plate is missing from the RB car already, but somehow the German stays ahead of the Brit, or does he? Because there, Jensen Rosen has to cut the grass because Beisner is missing downforce, and that has allowed Tom 97 to get past as well. Can he then go into 4th position? No, he can't. Just barely has to stay behind. Lucas Beisner has let the top 3 get away from him because of all the fighting happening, but there comes Tom 97, gets past quite easily. Daniel Gottschalk as well. Lucas Beisner's pace has once again fallen down the drain fast, and another podium for him, or potentially the first podium in a long time, is getting further and further away from him. There he goes, trying to get defensive against Jensen Rosen, who tries to go around the outside. Behind them, Thomas Laminen and Thomas Lang fighting for position as well. Thomas Lang, of course, trying to score his first points of the season, now down in 9th place as the Finn has gotten past. There's so many fights happening on track right now. It's hard to figure out where to look first.
Yeah, very much. And again, Jensen Rosen going on it on Lucas Basner. What is happening to Lucas Basner this season? His luck, Conrad Bohm, I think you can see the end of his championship charge. And the end of the race for him already. And that, as it stands, confirms Leroy Brown as champion if it is to finish where it currently is.
Well, Lighty still has a shot technically with 63 points behind, but he's 17th at the moment. So yeah, Leroy Brown's got it all under control. It's his race to lose, literally, right now. Mark Schluter isn't posing a threat for the championship, so he's going to have to pick his fights wisely to make sure it's all going to stay nice and clean. In the meanwhile, Thomas Lamminen also getting past Lucas Beisner, as does Boba, who nearly plowed into the back in turn 1, by the way, of Thomas Lamminen as well. As he goes into P8, Lucas Beisner now is trying to fight for what he's worth, but it's not helping him whatsoever. Boba stays ahead for now, and behind him, Thomas Lang is lining him up for a move as well. I wouldn't be surprised if we see another retirement coming up very soon from the other RB car. A double retirement for the team would be an absolute nightmare for them. Wilson Hall getting overtaken by Tim Tronimo. In the meanwhile, as Lucas Beisner gets a 3-second time penalty, just like Wilson Hall has. So many things happening right now. Daniel Gottschalk's now gotten the fastest lap of the race. He's also gotten past Tom 97. And in fact, the group of 3 is now back to a 5-son at the front of the field.
Yeah, this is again... I think the front 2, I think especially Leroy Brown, he's not rushing. I think he knows he's not in any sort of rush. You can see the others seem to be in a bit more of a rush. He's saving his tyres, isn't he? He wants to go longer. He's saving ERS, he's saving tyres. And it doesn't, looking from the way he's driving, he doesn't seem to particularly be pushing. But I think there's a bit of sort of rival teamwork going on here, because Mark Schluter isn't going for a move, because I think they know that they've got the pace to stay in front between the 2 of them.
Yeah, I'm looking at my telemetry again, and now instead of 2 rainy icons, I can now see 3 of them. Out of the 7, the first 4 are dry, and then the last 3 have become rainy. So it's gotten a little bit closer as Boba gets past Jensen Rosen there for 7th place. Boba on an absolute roll, trying to get closer to his teammate. We see Lucas Beisner tumbling down the order fast as he heads into the pit lane. And I think, whoa, he's actually smashed into the pit lane, literally. And he retires, and it's a double RB retirement. An absolute nightmare from both of the drivers. One of them fighting for the championship, one of them potentially for a podium after his brilliant qualifying. Both of them now out of the race, and another 3-second time penalty, this time for Tim Tronimo. They are wrecking them up fast, aren't they?
Yeah, I've just seen in the chat, Conrad Bohm only had about 30 frames per second. So that is why, that's just an unlucky time for the game to hit you. And to be honest, we've seen this season, there's half the sort of retirements have been because of game issues, haven't they? So it's really been unlucky for a lot of drivers. And of course it doesn't help things, does it? It doesn't particularly help things. But one person it is helping is us being long-time fans of Ivan Santamaria.
He's on a roll.
Yeah, he's up to P9. This man is having a good race for once.
He was falling backwards last week, and he's moving up the field this week. So Canada is probably a favorite of his. He's now in the top 10 and on his way for his 2nd point scoring this season. His first one, I believe, was a 9th or 10th place somewhere in the first half of the season. Not sure where from the top of my head. But he's looking strong, and Ferrari might be up for a good race tonight at long last, and they need it. Mark Schluter in 2nd, Ivan Santamaria in P9 at the moment, with the rain on the horizon. All those on the hards are going to be cheering it on to come a little bit sooner. Boba is going to hope that's going to be even sooner than the rest of the drive, because he's still in the mediums. 8 laps in right now. They'll be slightly past their prime at the moment. And he's made up several positions. In fact, let's see how many positions these drivers have made up. Boba from 16th all the way up to 7th. Ivan Santamaria from, P14 up to P9. Alighty, though, not making as much progress as I expected him to make. He's now only up in P15.
Yeah, it's been a slow race from Lighty. He's had a couple of wobbles off of the first few laps. Now Mark Schluter finally takes the lead of the race after about, 5-6 laps.
Long last, yes, he's regained the lead. He's not going to try and get away from Leroy Brown. That would just destroy his tires. Every driver here on the hards is going to make sure those tires last long enough for them to switch to the inters instead of having to make an extra stop to take on medium tires because of destroyed hards. So everybody, I think, especially in the top of the field, is driving quite conservatively. Except for Boba, who's on a roll right now in 7th place, but he's gonna have old tires very soon and struggling hard, especially once the track gets wet and greasy. It might become quite dangerous for him.
Yeah, very much. One driver who's having a bit of a strange evening is Thomas Lang. He's having a bit of an odd evening, isn't he? He's stuck in front of his teammate and he doesn't seem to be able to get past him. And he's stuck in this DRS train, isn't he? And he's especially stuck behind particularly Jensen Rosen and Ivan Santamaria, who are putting on an incredible defense, especially Jensen Rosen, who has not let a driver by in a little while. For Thomas Lang, I think he's had a bit of a rough day. He's had a bit of a rough season. That's a bit of an understatement, but he has had quite a rough season, I must say. But we're going to have to see how he does, of course. He hasn't scored points yet. He wants those points. He's P10. He might just be able to get them this week.
In the meanwhile, Louis Welch is not able to keep up the pace. The man in the very high in the standings at the moment has been losing ground to Lighty ever since through 3 or 4 laps ago. His gap is now that big that he can no longer have DRS on Tim Tornimo right there. So Louis Welch definitely in trouble alongside Matex and Wilson Hall, which have joined him at the back of the field. The rest, though, still within DRS range. All to play for pretty much. 6 drivers with, 6 with time penalty at the moment. So things are very interesting still for the time being. We're 10 laps in. We can already see the clouds starting to form and the weather slowly starting to change to that rain that's been predicted.
Poor exit from Thomas Lang, by the way, out of the hairpin, allows his teammate Bogdan Ladobin into the top 10. So Thomas Lang's hopes reduce even more, of course, this season.
Ouch, we've jinxed it again, haven't we?
Yeah, but I have to say, this drive we're seeing from Exafox is amazing. Louis Welch now retires. Another championship challenger out of the battle. That was all over for him, isn't it? It's very much all over. It was over. It wasn't over before this race. He's just 70 points behind, but it is now over. Disappointing. We've now seen, 2 championship challengers out of the battle.
Yeah, and there's now 3 remaining, including Leroy Brown. Leroy leading the race. Exafox is sitting in 3rd and Lighty is in 15th. So the nearest challenger to Leroy is Exafox, and I think Exafox is in a man on a mission. Meanwhile, Thomas Lemon is also on a mission, trying to get past Tom 97 right there on the inside of the hairpin. Strong move as he even drifted a little bit. Same goes for Ivan Santamaria, trying to get past Jensen Rosen, but Jensen Aston Martin is extraordinarily wide tonight. But there goes Thomas Laminen trying to get past, or does he? There's Daniel Gottschalk a tiny bit in the way for him to get past, but he does so anyway. Tom 97 wisely backs out to prevent any potential danger for them both, but he might come back at him in turn 1, and he does so with an almighty dive bomb, but Thomas Laminen's carrying a little bit more speed. Whoa, there comes Boba, gone too deep and tapped the right rear of the Mercedes right there. Now there's 4 cars very close together. Is there going to be a collision anytime soon? Not yet, though. There goes Ivan Santamaria. His comeback is absolutely unreal as he goes up into P8. Oh, brakes too late, as does everybody else behind him. Absolute chaos starting to happen right now at the bottom of the top 10. Boba dropped down quite a lot now. His tires are starting to wear down hard behind him. Some backing up is starting to happen. Oh, there goes Alexi Cavera and Thomas Lang nearly taking one another out. There goes Damien Carril on the roll right now, trying to climb up several positions, and they're braking a lot later, too late. Again, another bump then, this time in the back of Thomas Lang's Haas. It's absolute chaos, and everybody is just braking too late at the moment.
Yeah, I have to say, I think the drivers are finding a massive drop-off on the tyres. Something that I think wasn't expected. We saw this in Zandvoort, didn't we, though? The tyres lasting quite a while, and then all of a sudden, in 2-3 laps, they have a massive drop-off.
Yeah, but 12 laps. They should last much longer than that.
they should last at least about 20 laps, I believe. These hard tyres should last about 20 to 23 laps, I think. Before the patch, before the last handling update, they ultimately were lasting 20 to 23 laps around the track. So we might see people just fighting too much, pushing too hard. But I think we might be seeing them come in maybe a lap 16 to 18.
Yeah, let's see, because, you know, as I said, the weather is starting to get a bit more cloudy. There's still some blue patches out there at the moment. But I think they've got to have to try and make sure these tires last until the rain falls. I mean, I'm sure that's the reason why they all picked the hard tires. Wilson Hall, in the meanwhile, switched to the medium tires to get himself a fresh start in some clear air. Not sure why what the reason is he's chosen that. Maybe a front wing damage potentially. In the meanwhile, Leroy Brown, Mark Schluter swapping positions once again as we head into lap 14 as Boba gets a massive penalty for speeding in the pit lane as he retires, as does Alexi Cavero. Many drivers are throwing in a towel, aren't they?
Yeah, this is odd, isn't it? I haven't seen this in a long while. That's 5 drivers now, and we're only on lap 14. We're not even halfway through the race yet. There's still another 21 laps left, and we've already lost a quarter of the grid.
That's so strange.
Yeah.
I wonder why 5 out of 5 retired in the pit lane, and Wilson Hall has decided to continue, actually. And now he's getting past the retired Red Bull of Alexi Cavero right there. Lighty, in the meanwhile, has been promoted up to 13th thanks to all the retirements. And he's getting closer and closer to those points he would like to have. Damien Carril, in the meanwhile, has entered the top 10. Bogdan Moldovan in P9. Thomas Lang has left the top 10 quite hard right now. Down to 12th place at the moment. Not going too well for him for those points this season, as Tim Tornimo is getting past Damien Carril to get into the top 10 himself, desperately trying to close the gap to the top 9, who are all still within DRS range. Bogdan Moldovan, though, struggling a little bit to keep up with the rest of them. Ivan Santamaria putting on some pressure to Jensen Rosen, who too in his turn is trying to take the offensive to Tom 97.
Very much. Looking at Tom 97, he's had a bit of a quiet race, hasn't he? Sat around that 5th, 6th.
Yeah, but it is stable though, the race. His race especially.
Oh,
whoa, he's crashed. Whoa, my goodness, dangerous plays on the track as well. I just saw Matex speeding past and I'm hoping to catch some more of him as I'm following Wilson Hall. No, he's already gone. But he was literally in the middle of the track and Matex just avoided him. That's a proper first retirement on track by crashing it. And the safety car is gonna bring the bad weather even closer to them.
Yeah. I do think this is good timing, though, for a lot of the drivers.
It is.
Because the tyres are starting to go off. They could stretch out this hard stint for, another, 2 laps. The safety car goes for another 2-3 laps. They can extend the stint out. Or they could come in now, go for the mediums, go for some fresh mediums, and then change tyres. And I think we're seeing them come in to change tyres.
Yeah, no surprises there, isn't it?
Let's see where everybody's going to come out, because everybody is coming in. Leroy Brown might get stuck, because remember, he's in the first pit lane. He's actually performing quite nicely with it, I must say. Because remember how it used to hold you in the pit lane? It used to do that, hold you in your pit box. That used to be horrific. But Leroy Brown's gotten away from that, and he's still out in the lead. Any changes? Tom 97's lost out. He's down to 8.
Yep, I found Santa Maria as well, because they were, of course, sort of double stacking for their team, so they lost. It was inevitable that they would lose 1 or 2 positions, and it happened. But the biggest winner, I think, is Thomas Laminen, up to P5. Jensen Rosen back into P6. Bogdan Moldovan finds himself in 7th. He's got some brilliant race pace, hasn't he?
Yeah, very much. It's strange to see, because we haven't seen it this season, have we?
Well, I believe he's somewhere P6 or 7 in the standings, so he's definitely got some pace right there. Just that we haven't seen all too much from him lately. But right now he's up there, and he's doing quite well, as opposed to Thomas Lang, who's been dropping down the order, now down in 12, but this is an opportunity for him to make up some ground. However, we're going to have a little look at those penalties. Everybody's got 3 seconds except for Wilson Hall, who's managed to wreck his total to 6 seconds. So those without a penalty at the moment have got the biggest advantage. The entire top 6 without a penalty. Tom 97, Ivan Santamaria and Lighty as well. And Lighty is pretty much on the verge of entering the top 10.
This is interesting, but I will say Lighty's most gained from this is from retirements.
Yes, of course, yeah.
So we've had 6, which is the highest we've had this season, by the way. So this race proving to be something else.
Yeah, I'm curious to know why they all retired. We know Conrad has had bad FPS. I'm not sure about everybody else, though. Why have they all decided to throw in the towel so early, knowing that there's rain on the way and always a chance of a safety car, which just happened right now with Damien Carril crashing out. As Wilson Halls decide to go brave and go for the soft tyres. He thinks the rain is gonna come really soon. Hopefully, preferably for him within the next 5 or 6 laps before those soft tyres completely die on him. But that's an interesting way to trying to get back in the front of the rest.
It is. I mean, hopefully he has 10 more drivers to go. By the way, Lighty, until he wins.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe they'll all retire at this rate, but who knows? That will be his hope to some degree, I think. Leroy Brown, though, leading once again, and very much the story of the race, hasn't it? He hasn't put a foot wrong. Been perfect everywhere, and not a lot to say, is there? Because he's just been so consistent, and this is what we've seen so much this season.
Safety car in this lap, and he leads away the rest of the field. Mark Schluter behind, then Exofox, Daniel Gottschalk and Thomas Lamminen. Thomas Lamminen, of course, a Tier 3 champion as well. Last week he was fighting hard with Leroy Brown for the win. 2 champions against each other was an absolute treat, and potentially, now that he's climbed up the order, we might see it for round number 2. Thomas Lamminen versus Leroy Brown, but he's got to overtake 4 cars to get to Leroy Brown, or 3 actually, to make sure he can have a fight with him. But you can see the weather is changing rapidly now. It's gotten very cloudy as the race gets back underway. Leroy Brown leading the field once again. Exofox getting a really good run on this Mark Schluter. Can he go for a dive then into turn 1? No, he decides to play it safe, as do most people behind him. Wilson Hall, though, he needs to get past fast on those softs, but he doesn't get to do it, though, as Matex stays ahead for the time being. But then everybody on fresh mediums, they can all race hard because the rain is gonna come soon, and they all know it, and that's why they're now pushing a lot harder. It's going to be absolute mayhem, I can tell you, when the rain falls, because we'll see full wet tires. It's going to be a thunderstorm, but potentially a safety car because of horrible weather conditions, as we saw in Singapore as well. But for now, everybody is still racing. The top 3 remains the same, and we're back underway.
And Leroy Brown's gone away pretty much in all of this. You know, he's already 6 tenths into the lead. And by the way, this race, the lead hasn't gone above half a second.
So this is a new record.
It was 0.58. So yeah, it hasn't gone above 6 tenths all race long. So it's very close this week, isn't it? We're not talking about a couple of drivers off in the lead. We are literally talking about tenths splitting, you know, 5, 6 drivers.
It is, I mean, that's what makes this tier really fun to see. Daniel Gottschalk, in the meanwhile, gotten quite close there to Exofox for a moment in the corners, but he has to back out, stays within 4 tenths of a second though. Jensen Rosen, as usual, on the offensive and the defensive at the same time, trying to get closer and past Thomas Lamminen, still in P5. But for now though, all of these drivers are very nicely keeping their positions for now, waiting out the big moment when the first drops are going to fall, and I'm feeling like that is getting awfully close, perhaps within the next 3 or 4 laps?
Maybe 7 or 8, because it's gotten quite a bit darker, but we know how the dry tyres can go in the wet.
Yeah, especially those medium tires, who are, of course, going to not last as long, but they are more grippy in the wetter conditions. We can see the gaps, some are really small. Ivan Santamaria gotten quite a lot closer to Tom 97. He just needs a good exit then from the chicane. Doesn't get a good exit from the chicane, at least not good enough. Tom 97, in fact, gotten a better exit against Bogdan Moldovan. but he still doesn't get past. If you think he can rely on, though, he doesn't have any penalties. And I think that is one thing that's going to play a huge factor in this race. The amount of penalties that drivers are going to have, especially the top 6, is going to have to be really careful, knowing that potentially a safety car can come out when the weather gets too bad. You don't want to be driving around and P1 with a 3-second time penalty to your name by then.
That would just be the worst thing, to be honest. Looking at this though, I am sort of seeing the grid is all within around 2 to 3 tenths of lap time of each other, by the way. They are seriously close at the moment. I think with the reduced grid though, I think we're definitely seeing less moments for racing and less incidents. So that's kind of a good thing. I think the stewards will be happy. Yeah, but I think that's pretty much all the people that will be happy. Mark Schlitter now has retaken the lead of the race as we go on to lap number 21. But 14 laps left. Who do you think is going to come out on top?
I think it's going to be a two-way fight between Leroy Brown and Mark Schlitter, but I feel like Leroy Brown just has the edge over the German. He's had the most experience in front, let's be honest, this season especially. Mark Schlitter is kind of like a new guy out there, and there it is. 2 laps after the safety car has come in, the rain is falling, and that is quite early. Those tires are 5 laps old. They're still in their prime, thankfully for the drivers. But now they're going to have to be a little bit more careful as the track slowly starts to get wetter and wetter. Soon we'll be seeing them swapping to the intermediate tires, and then let's find out who's the absolute rainmaster. We see Daniel Gottschalk, the man we've got to keep an eye on in these conditions, sitting in 4th with an absolute brilliant chance of claiming that race win. So maybe it's not a two-way fight between Mark and Leroy anymore.
By the way, I'm seeing drops of rain.
Yeah, I just said that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I'm just noticing it now because what I'm seeing is that it isn't just like one side of the track. Like we were saying.
Oh,
about,
what's this?
Like, ooh.
Tom 97 is pitting. Wilson Hall.
You know how sometimes it's on one part of the track. Like one side it starts on. It is the entire track, by the way. So
yep.
It's fully come over within seconds, which is mental to think of, but it is coming very quickly all of a sudden. And yeah, it's because I was thinking maybe the rain's just coming, towards the, in the middle sector, but no, it is across the whole track.
I'm watching Tom's time gap, towards Matex. Is it increasing? Let's find out through the corners. It is increasing, but only a tiny bit. So his choice to go to the inters, I think, might have been absolutely brilliant. Let's see how much time he's going to gain through turns 8 and 9. 15.4, 5. Might have been a lap too early for him to come in. The DRS is still enabled. His teammate is still out there and going around once again. I think Tom 97 has been sacrificed to try and play tryouts there for his teammates. Several other drivers have decided to come in now. Maybe this lap it might be a better choice to switch to those intermediate tires. There they go, Jensen Rosen, Lighty and Tim Tornimo have decided to make the switch to the intermediate tires now. DRS is still enabled though, so according to the game at least, the track is still dry enough for those medium tires to still work properly. We're watching now where Tom 97 is going to come out. He's still out ahead of all of these drivers, or is he? No, he isn't. He's been left behind by Jensen Rosen and Tim Tornimo, and nearly Lighty as well. And that was the only driver out of these 3 that he was still ahead of when he came in. So Lighty's nearly overtaken him. Tom took a huge risk, but now the turnaround might have come as the rain falls down harder and harder. The top 9 still remains on those intermediates. I wonder if they're going to come in this lap then.
Maybe, but I still don't think there's enough rain. Because looking on board with Leroy Brown, it's still very dry. It's very dry still, so I'd be surprised if they come in this lap, maybe another lap. And yeah, they are going for another lap. I think it's too dry to go in. Because I think this is the one thing is, of course, it's very hard to predict sort of when. But you could see the drivers. The nice thing for the drivers is we're just having to go for visuals and how it looks. But drivers, of course, have that feeling. They've got the steering, they can feel it in the pedals as well. So, they're going to be able to judge it far better than we can. But I will say, the nice thing here is that nobody has spun. Nobody spun it in these sort of strange conditions.
No, and now I can see Tinter Nemo starting to gain time on Matex ahead, and this might then finally be the moment where the Inters are going to be faster. Look at that, he's already gained 0.3 of a second through 4 or 5 corners. He's losing a little bit on the straight, but then of course the corners come up again. There he goes, gains a little bit of time right there. This might be the crossover point they've been waiting for. We might see them come in, all of them then, by the end of this lap, and Ferrari might be in trouble. They're going to be double stacking once more. Mark Schluter and Ivan Sintermia very close together at the moment. Mark Schluter therefore deciding to make the move on Leroy Brown, and no, they're still going to go around again. Maybe Ivan is then going to come in. No, he's still going around too. All 9 of them stay out on those inters. In fact, Tinter Nemo has lost a little bit of time now. Once more, so it's very unpredictable to know which tire is the fastest, and Exafox has taken 2nd place in the meanwhile from the championship leader, and that's good news for him.
Very much. I do agree. I'm looking at a couple of... I'm looking around. As it stands, Exafox has to score at least 12 points more.
That's a lot.
Or 13 points more. At the moment, if Leroy Brown stays where he is, he of course will still win the championship here and now.
Yeah, so he's going to take it quite easy, even with these tricky conditions right here. But we've seen a few weeks ago in Hungary and in Singapore as well that the wet conditions aren't really Leroy Brown's thing. So he's probably going to hope that this is the worst he's going to be in P3 at the moment. He's getting really close to Exafox once again to make the move, but Exafox carrying a little bit more straight line speed, pushing Mark Schluter through the chicane once again. They are still staying out. The track is still not wet enough. We can still see the gap between Matus and Jensen Rosen. It's sticking around 16.5 seconds. So at the moment, the mediums are slightly faster or equal at worst than the intermediate tires. So that means it's still a wise decision to stay out. DRS is still enabled as well, but the rain is now starting to come down a little bit harder.
Only slightly harder though, you can't lie. It's not a lot. For the amount of laps we've had this now, so 4 or 5 laps, it's not coming down much harder than, for instance, we had at the start. So maybe the drivers who went to the intermediates have gone a little bit too early.
I'm afraid so, yeah.
Yeah, quite a bit early as well. Massive mistake from them. He's now left them out sort of with any big points chance.
Yeah, I saw Ivan Santamaria bumping into the rear of Bogdan Moldovan. I was about to say Thomas Lang, but he's the Haas behind them, together with Matex right there. But now suddenly we see Jensen Rosen gaining quite a lot of time. In fact, Leroy Brown agrees that this is the moment to swap, because Jensen Rosen suddenly is gaining about a second in this lap alone on those medium tire users. So this, for Leroy Brown at least, might have been a perfect opportunity to swap tires, and hoping that Jensen Rosen is going to stay behind. And I'm going to think that he is going to stay behind. Tim Tornimo is now only going through the last chicane as Leroy Brown is exiting the pit lane as we speak. He's going to be well ahead of them. Several drivers behind have decided to make the swap as well to the intermediate tires, but Leroy Brown comfortably is leading from the rest of the pack, and I think he will soon be comfortably leading from the remaining top 6 as well.
Yeah, let's see how Leroy Brown does, because I want to see how much he catches up to Ivan Santamaria. It is quite a bit. 3/10 in one corner, by the way. He is gaining quite a bit. 4/10 so far through 2 corners.
Yep, Mark Schluter has decided to stay out, which might have been a fatal mistake, because we do not know how his pace will be on the intermediate tires compared to the championship leader. He's got no choice. He has to come in right now, otherwise it's going to be way too late. Does he do so though? Yes. No, he doesn't. He stays out. Exafox though does come in. Daniel Gottschalk goes around for another lap, as does Thomas Leminen, but Exafox, Bogdan Moldovan, Ivan Santamaria all go to the Inters. And I think, to be fair, those 3 have made the wisest choice.
I agree with you. This is mental, because look at how much Leroy Brown has caught up. It's gone way down. He's going to pull miles out in front of Exafox. Look at him. He's already through turn 1. And he's going to be through turn 2 while X-Fox just turns up. But he's going to be quite a bit behind, isn't he? He's over a second behind Leroy Brown. Let's see how much Leroy Brown catches up in this lap to Tumas Laminen. It is dropping down massively now, isn't it? You know, 2-3 tenths per corner. This is really... They are being bold, the front three. Maybe they're being bold in the right way, but at the moment, I don't think it is.
No, they should have come in with the rest. 13.6 now between Thomas Laminen and Leroy Brown. Of course, on the straight, he loses out a little bit because Thomas still got DRS. But look at that through the corners, 13.4. And then, of course, the hairpin coming up still. And then what is the gap going to be by then? 13.4 through the corner. He goes there. 3. 13.1. 13.0. That's half a second, more than half a second through the chicane, or sorry, the hairpin alone. And finally, they've decided to throw in the towel and go for the intermediate tires. But I believe, personally, and as you agree, of course, Epic, it's too little, too late, and Leroy Brown is going to come out ahead of them. Exafox desperately trying to catch, but he picks up a penalty there. Not at all what he wanted to have. Now, let's see, where's the rest going to come out? Mark Schluter drops down to third, maybe even worse than that. Ivan Santamaria potentially goes up into the podium places. Where's he going to come out? He's going to come out behind his teammate and just barely behind Daniel Gottschalk, who just barely stays ahead of Ivan Santamaria, goes into P4 still by a miracle. He hasn't lost out to anything.
It is quite strange though, isn't it? How they've all come away from this. But the biggest winner from it has been Leroy Brown.
Absolutely.
He's got a massive lead now. Mark Schluter is quite far behind. Do we think this is championship wrapped up?
For now, yes. Unless the safety car decides to change things around. I mean, his nearest rival is still Exafox, but he's got a time penalty, so no chance of defeating Leroy Brown on track at the moment. Lighty is still only in P12. He still hasn't entered the top 10. So yeah, at the moment, it is definitely Leroy's.
Yeah, I think... And now Xbox is overtaking him with that penalty. Really, I think this is... It's been a very interesting championship, but it's been a championship of dominance from one man. And that man is, I'm pretty sure, the man we're watching, and that is Leroy Brown.
Yeah, I just saw somebody get victimized to the Wall of Champions. I think that might have been either Tom97 or no, it was actually Thomas Lang. He's missing the end part of the right part of the front wing. As Lighty made a humongous dive bomb in turn 1. Wilson Hall throws in the towel as well. He was being cheered on by the chat, but he's out of the race. 13 drivers remain. It's become a little bit of an endurance. Who is going to last the longest with just over 5 laps to go? It's still a battle between Mark Schluter and Leroy Brown for the win. Everybody else is struggling to stay with them at the moment. They've all gotten back within 1 second. But, well, actually, DRS is still enabled. I still haven't seen the sign saying it's going to be disabled, and I still have seen the rear wings opening.
Yeah, you can see Mark Schluter, by the way, has caught up. Quite a bit more. He's within a second now.
And he's still got DRS.
This is strange. I have no clue what this game is.
Technically it's F124, but you know, it can be anything right now with all these strange shenanigans going on. DRS is still online. I'm not sure why. It should be too wet at the moment, I guess. The game, though, disagrees, and it is good news then for Mark Schluter. He can still mount a proper challenge to Leroy Brown for now. Exafox, though, in the mud with the penalty. Daniel Gottschalk technically on the podium right now. He is one of those rain masters. He wants to get past Exafox as soon as he can, because Exafox is losing ground fast to the top 2. We're slowly driving away from him, so the Williams has to get past now. Let's see if he got a good exit. Yes, he did, but the straight, I'm afraid, is not long enough for the move to be made. Ivan Santamaria, though, he is in P5 at the moment. He's still got a podium in his sight as well. So he's gonna throw everything at work there to make sure he can get past Daniel Gottschalk right there, because this is is an ultimate chance. Whoa, there comes Thomas Lemon on Bogdan Moldovan. A humongous dive bomb into the hairpin, and he made it work. Both of them kept their noses clean, and now they're going side by side on the longest straight of the track. Right there they go. Who's gonna come off best? In fact, it's Daniel Gottschalk just ahead of them, fighting for position, getting past Exafox as he needed to. Thomas Lemon just edges out Bogdan Moldovan for P6 right there, and Ivan Santamaria is gonna make a move on Exafox as well into turn 1. Is he gonna claim P4? Yes, he does. He broke incredibly nicely there. Exafox broke actually too early, and that allowed the Ferrari to get past. So for the first time this season, we've got 2 Ferraris in the top 4.
This is something else. This means they would have scored more points this race than the rest of the season combined.
Yes, easily.
I think 2 or 3 times over.
Yeah.
I think it'll be twice over, which is mental to think about in just one single race. Where has this been? Where have these Ferraris been? And where has Ivan Santamaria's godlike pace appeared from?
He's really enjoying himself tonight.
Yeah,
Isn't
and
he?
he's going for a podium.
Exactly.
I mean, where? How? He has 2 points out of 7 races this season. And that's been painful to watch and has definitely, we'll say, not made me cry tears into my pillow during the night.
Well, there we go. I believe it just said DRS disabled, isn't it?
Yeah, so finally, the game notices it's raining.
Perfect timing for Mark Schluter, by the way. He's just gotten into the lead. And Leroy Brown's rear wing can no longer open. With only 3 laps to go, Mark Schluter is in a prime position to win the race. Daniel Gottschalk will have to put up an almighty show to get past the championship leader. And Ivan Santamaria as well is going to have to do something special to get past the Williams ahead. So, with 2.5 laps remaining, these 4 drivers have got a proper shot at victory. But for now, it's all in Mark Schluter's hands. After a nightmare season, he is leading it right now. Leroy Brown, well, we're not very surprised to see him struggle in the rain, as Mark Schluter is starting to get away. He's really brilliant in the rain as well. Daniel Gottschalk's getting closer and closer to the Mercedes. Will Leroy Brown then drop to P3? Doesn't really matter for him anyway. All of his rivals are behind. In fact, Lighty's now gone down to last place, with Tom 97 getting past. Let's see then, who will win this race?
In my opinion, it's swaying all the way to Mark Schluter now.
Yeah.
It really is. He's just got to hook up 2 more laps. That's all he's got to do. And he would have won a race where, to be honest, we didn't think he would. But while we say about that, we've got to talk about Leroy Brown and a championship sealed. But he's under attack at the moment from Daniel Gottschalk. Almost looked like Daniel Gottschalk was going for a move into turn 1. I got a little bit worried there. But yeah, we have to talk about both a brilliant race from Mark Schluter, but is that exit spot?
Yep, it is. And Lighty in the pit lane. Oh, man. Do carry on, though.
Yeah. I mean, we've got to talk about Leroy Brown, though, and this championship he's had. You've got to agree with me, this has been the most dominant championship I think we've seen. Yeah,
at least in my career, that's absolutely for sure.
Yeah, and it's the most dominant I think I've seen personally, because in all of my seasons of commentating on Tier 3, I've never seen a championship. I said this earlier, I've never seen a driver get 6 podiums in 7 races in this tier. We've never seen it. And yet Leroy Brown has done it, and he's very much breaking a lot of records we have. And at the moment, he is the best driver on this grid, and he's shown it every single race and throughout this entire season.
Yep, we head to the final lap. The Achilles heel, though, for Leroy Brown are these conditions, but he doesn't really care anymore. The only threat is from behind from Daniel Gottschalk, who appears to be quite a lot faster, but he needs to find the perfect opportunity, and he's only got this lap to do it. Ivan Santamaria has backed out completely. He's going to try and secure P4 for the team. An absolutely mighty result, whatever happens for both of the red cars out on track tonight. They've done an extraordinary job. Mark Schluter from pole position, Ivan Santamaria from from P, what was it, 14. Now in 4th place. He's still got Thomas Laminen from behind though, as the potential threat, but Daniel Gottschalk is the man who can make it work for 2nd place again in these conditions. Another P2 for him would be absolutely brilliant, but he still's got to get past our soon-to-be Tier 3 champion here in Season 19. He's got a perfect opportunity right now, but Leroy Brown's going to defend it. He's forced around the outside. Can he find more grip then? His tires are 2 laps younger. He does find more grip. On the inside he moves. Oh, Leroy Brown nearly takes him out of the race. That would have been disastrous for the championship leader. But now, Daniel Gottschalk's got to get an almighty run down the straight. He's got one more opportunity, and that is in the chicane. He's going to try it. All or nothing for the Williams. Leroy Brown wisely decides to back out, and Daniel takes 2nd place, but Mark Schluter, he's finally done it from pole, from nowhere to win the race here in Canada. But you've got to keep the applause going for Daniel Gottschalk in 2nd, but especially for Leroy Brown, the man who's been dominating here in Tier 3. He has claimed the championship for himself with 2 races to spare as he comes home in 3rd position. And then further down, we've got another brilliant result for Ivan Santamaria in P4, then Thomas Lammen in P5, and the rest of the results you'll get from me in a moment.
What a race to Mark Schluter. We never expected it, did we? And driver of the day, it says Ivan Santamaria, and I'm going to say it now, I agree. You know, I have no words for this, what we've seen today.
There it is.
I'm going to ask you, driver of the day, who are you
Mark
gonna give
Schluter.
it to?
It's difficult. I know. Ivan Santamaria would be a great contender too, but I think Mark Schluter's made it work.
Santamaria, just for his gaining 10 places.
Yeah,
in the race.
both are very deserving of it, I think. But the results then, Mark Schluter has won it. Daniel Gottschalk from 7th to 2nd. Brilliant race from him as well. Leroy Brown, the champion of Season 19, in 3rd place. Then Ivan Santamaria in 4th. Thomas Lammen in P5. Bogdan Moldovan in P6. Axefox finishes 7th. Matex from 19th all the way up to P8. Brilliant race from him. Pretty much invisible this time round. Tintornimo then P9 from 17th. Jensen Rosen, his points there in 10th place. He's finally done it. Tom 97 just misses out, but he does get the fastest lap. No points for him though for that. Thomas Lang again, no points. He's going to be very disappointed, and he is in the Discord already. Lighty, well, he's retired, finishes 13th technically, and then all the retirements of Wilson Hall, Damian Carril, Boba, Alexi Covero, Louis Welch, Lucas Beisner, and Conrad Bohm.
What a race that was. And would you say it was the best race of the season?
Well, that's going to be a difficult one, actually. Was it the best race of the season? I do not know. I mean, the final few laps were brilliant, but I've seen some other brilliant races as well. Last week in China, for example, Hungary was really cool to watch as well. The first race was very chaotic, so let's forget about that one. But other than that, you know, many races would be a contender for greatest race of the season, to be honest. And this one, well, might be a good one too, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Very much. Are we going to be having the beautiful interviews that we have?
I'm going to try and tag all of them. Mark Schluter, of course, Leroy, and what's it?
Let's hope they join. We haven't had a lot of luck this season.
I need to stop pressing random buttons, by the way, because I just enabled the intro video again. Well, I was thinking for a moment, somebody has joined the interview box, but it's not one of our drivers. It's one of the other tier drivers. Jensen Rosen asking if anyone can join the interview box. No, just the top 3. Let me actually enlighten him. Just really hoping they'll join. Please join! I want to hear from especially Leroy Brown and, of course, Mark Schluter for this race, because Mark will be celebrating hard at the moment, I think. Let's see if, He's actually put an appropriate GIF in there in the chat, didn't he?
Yeah.
The Kimi Raikkonen, yeah, thank you, with the USA 2018 win. The effing finally. That's perfect. Oh, there he is! He is going to join us then in the commentary box. It is our race winner, Mark Schluter. Mark, on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you at the moment?
10, definitely.
Yeah, because that meant that was brilliant. Pole position and the race win against the champion of this tier. That must have been a brilliant race for you.
Yeah, that was very brilliant. I think the rain in the end kind of saved me, because Leroy had a shit ton of top speed, so it was difficult to overtake him even with DRS. And yeah, winning on my favorite track finally on the F1 game is like a dream come true.
Yeah, your pace showed that this track was definitely your favorite. Were you expecting it before this event tonight that you would be all the way up there?
No, I didn't expect it. Maybe like top 10, top 5, like I was always in qualifying, and maybe top 5 finish because my race pace and racecraft is kind of good. But yeah, it's very, very difficult to overtake here, I think. One of the hardest tracks to overtake, I think.
Yeah, I'm not going to ask, was this your best race of the season? Because even objectively, this was the best race of your season. You've finally gotten your win. And I have to say, overall, for Ferrari, it's been an extraordinary day today.
Yeah, I guess PP1, PP4, guess Ivan finally got it together as well. So I think, yeah, it was a good day.
Any favorite moment from this race for you?
I think my DRS overtake on the Inters, because that was my last chance, because 1 lap later the DRS got close, and I think
yeah, we noticed that
DRS,
too.
I think without the DRS would have been hard to overtake Leroy because of his top speed, even in the rain. I maybe would have tried I think I would have tried a dive bomb in the hairpin or something, where I must have tried it. But yeah.
Yeah, there you are. Best of them all tonight in Canada. Any Epic, anything from you?
How was it like when sort of this race, knowing that you've had the pace and knowing that you've gotten unlucky quite a few times? How did it feel when you finally had a sort of turnaround this season?
Yeah, it just feels very, very good, because I think last race I got very unlucky with wing damage right when I was entering the box behind I think Lighty, or I don't know who it was, but yeah, so my race was over there. I think I could have fought for the win there as well, at least for a podium. And yeah, same happened in Zandvoort. Was pitting behind Lewis, got wing damage because he braked very early into the pits, and yeah, race was over. I think those 2 races would have been like top 5 or even podium.
Yeah, this was pretty much the turnaround for you then. I mean, well done on your victory here tonight. It's been absolutely bliss to watch you there, and enjoy your victory.
Thank you.
Cheers. Well, unfortunately, our champion still hasn't joined the commentary waiting box, but somebody who has joined is the man who finished in 2nd place. It is the Rainmaster of Tier 3. It's Daniel Gottschalk. Daniel, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Awesome. 2nd place for you from 7th. This race for you must have been a good one then.
Yeah, definitely a good race. Yeah, I was very happy that the rain was coming, because I know that is I'm a lot better in the rain than in the dry.
We've noticed, yeah. Where does that come from, Bill? What makes you so good in these conditions?
Yeah, maybe on the brakes. Maybe I can brake a bit later than the rest of the grid, but yeah, actually I don't know it 100%.
Yeah, starting from 7th, finishing in 2nd place. Of course, the rain helped you big time, but the first in of the race on the hard tires, I think, was really strong for you as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, because Lucas got ring damage, and then I got a really good double overtake on him and Jensen, and yeah, that opens me the door to Tom 97 as well because he lost the DRS, and then I think I was P4, yeah, and then I can catch up, and yeah. Then I tried to get no warnings, and yeah, was a very, very good race for me.
Yeah, Epic, anything from you?
How did it feel when you came across the line and you knew you finished on the podium after, having consistently good finishes this season? How did it feel just to get even higher up? Do even better than you've done so far?
Yeah, feels very good. Also because I drove maybe a bit defensive, but actually I didn't expect that it was Leroy has so less ERS, and yeah, I tried to overtake, but I didn't expect that it works. But yeah, P2 was a very, very good result.
Yeah, I mean, well done. Enjoy your podium tonight, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks.
Epic, it looks like Leroy Brown will not be joining us to give us some insight on the championship and tonight's race, which is unfortunate. But yeah, what can we say? Great race.
Yeah, very much, and a massive one in WR, especially in Tier 3. It's actually created a couple of records. I just want to list off the records quickly just before we go, because it's the fastest driver to win a championship in Tier 3 in a season, taking just 8 races. And by the way, the standings have also just been updated as well.
Yeah, I saw.
Already. Yeah, very quick. But Leroy Brown, first driver to do it. He's also the first driver to have a hat-trick of P3 finishes as well. Only driver to have ever done that. We've also had the biggest gain in points in 3 races, which came from Daniel Gottschalk. So compared to his previous average, it was the highest average since. And we've also had our highest finishing reserve ever of Conrad Bohm in second at the moment.
And that is incredible as well, isn't it? He's still in second, despite not having any points in the last 3 races, as Exofox has only managed P7 tonight. Daniel Gottschalk has still got a shot at that second place too. He's going to hope for some more rain in Austria and Brazil, perhaps. I've just updated the standings in the YouTube live stream as well. As you can see right there, only the top 10 though, to show you how things have changed around, especially down the bottom right there. Mark Schluter, with his win, has gone from somewhere 16th or 17th all the way out to P9 in the championship, 1 point behind Tom 97, who, by the way, on all the races that he's done, has only managed to not finish in the points for the first time tonight. Another interesting fact for you there. Louis Welch has been dropping down the order fast now that he's got a DNF to his name after his win in Hungary. He's been pretty much nowhere, now in P6. And Lighty has been dropped back down to P5. So, while the championship is over for the championship leader, Leroy Brown, he's won it all. There's still something to play for. The scraps, so to say. Second, third, fourth, and fifth, everything is still up for grabs pretty much, with 2 races to go. And which 2 those are? I just said it. Austria and Brazil, both races are very strong races for overtakes, especially. Very chaotic, especially it's going to be in Austria. So there's a lot to look forward to, despite the championship being wrapped up. 2 races remain then in this season, January 20th and January 27th. The rest of the week, of course, will be filled with the console tiers and many other things on this channel, so make sure to tune into those as well. For now, though, from the both of us, have a great morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel right here and the stream as well. And we'll see you next week in Austria, same place, same time. Until then, goodbye.